Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
All right. So we're supposed to stay in that role for 20 minutes after your presentation. So we'll be asking you questions as if we were the very people that you were presenting to.
Right.
And then after those 20 minutes, we will exit that role and make other comments about your presentation just as ourselves.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you're free to ask us any questions you wish to ask. And we'll be making comments at that time, if we wish, about your presentations tomorrow, the 10-minute and the 90-second, if we think there's something that might be helpful to you in those other competitions.
Right.
So that's the game plan. Do any of the other judges have comments they would like to make?
None at this time. Thank you.
Okay.
Ken,
Well,
Tom is going to join towards the end, so you're free to
Okay.
get started.
So I just want to clarify something really quickly. So we have a laptop in front of us, which is what we are using for our slideshow, and then one for the camera, because one laptop doesn't have a camera on it. So just to clarify, the one in front of us is for the slideshow, and then the one
that we're talking to
is for
is
the
on
camera.
camera.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Sounds good. So I think we've got all the details clear. When you're finished, I think the ethical aspects of your analysis are the most important. However, these should be described in a simple, practical, common sense fashion, using technical philosophical terminology. Basing your argument on religious or theological grounds will be considered a weakness. During this presentation, every member of the team must have some sort of speaking role. I should say it pains me that you're not supposed to use technical philosophical language because I'm a technical philosopher. But I understand the reasoning for that rule. So I think with all that said, I think we're in a position to start. So you begin and I'll press the button.
Okay.
Oh, Ken,
Yes.
in the other ones I've done today, the judges took 45 seconds to introduce themselves. Is that a good thing, or?
Well, that's fine. Yes, and I apologize for not doing that. Julie, would you start?
Of course. Of course. I think I put myself. Nope, I'm not on mute. Hi, I'm Julie Gershman. I'm the Global Ethics Officer for Prudential Financial. I'm a reformed lawyer dealing in global regulatory issues every day, and I'm very much looking forward to your presentation today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tim?
I'm Tim Mazer. I'm a business ethicist who has worked in corporate ethics and compliance for 33 years. And I'm currently the integrity and compliance investigator for a pharmaceutical company named Indivior.
And Fred?
I'm also a reform lawyer and now entrepreneur. Worked at the Rand Corporation and a spinoff of Rand that was a data analytics company, and most recently a digital health company.
Thank you. And I'm Ken Goodpaster, and I'm a retired professor emeritus at the University of St. Thomas in the field of business ethics. And I've been associated with the IBEC as an institution for many years, and I really am delighted to be with you. So with that as our introduction, the Mount Holyoke team should begin.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Theodosia Eduewa.
I am Tony Anarankin.
I'm Lerato Mashale.
And collectively, we are TLT, a consultant company that specializes in supply chain ethics. Today, we will be presenting on the ethical, financial, and legal aspects of your company, L'Oreal. That's a technical difficulty. Okay. L'Oreal, as the senior managers, we are going to take a look at various aspects of the issue at hand, which is the lack of transparency in L'Oreal's mica supply chain, and provide a 3-step solution to rectifying the problem. We will elaborate on this further during our presentation. I would now like to hand the presentation over to my colleague, Tony Ann, who will give a brief history of your company and talk about the financial implications of the situation.
Hi. As you know, L'Oreal was founded in 1909 and has risen to be a global leader in beauty and cosmetics. The group's mission is to provide the best in cosmetics innovation to women and men around the world with respect to their diversity. Over the years, there has been a boom in the beauty industry. Platforms like YouTube and Instagram have been used as marketing tools where social media influencers have helped with the advertisement of new makeup products. Because of the reflective properties of mica, the Lumishimerista, as seen on the slide, is one of your leading products and has been endorsed by many influencers because it gives users a summer or a spring glow. It is products like these, accompanied by the increase in endorsements from influencers, that cause a boom in the demand for mica in cosmetics, which in turn leads to the increase in artisanal mining of mica. As this graph shows, L'Oreal has increased its sales to have a market share of 29.4%. And as the graph shows, L'Oreal has been growing. It has been acquiring a lot of smaller household brands. For example, L'Oreal acquired CeraVe for $1.3 billion in 2017. This means that L'Oreal has the market power to help tackle big issues like child labor in India. We can only imagine the consequences on these increased sales if these same influencers who endorse makeup products know what really happened behind the scenes of acquiring mica. And it is this problem that leads us to our ethical issue.
India is one of the world's largest exporters of mica, where 75% is collected in Bihar and Jharkhand, which are highlighted in yellow on this slide. These are among the poorest regions in India. 1/8 of mica mines are legal, whereas 7 out of 8 of these mica mines are illegal. What that means is that a majority of mica exported from India are from illegal mines and make use of child labor under the pretense or euphemism artisanal mining. The ethical problem is your company L'Oreal can't tell if it's getting its mica from these mines due to the fact that you are sourcing your mica from intermediaries. Your supply chain isn't transparent. Sourcing from these communities in India has its benefits because it creates jobs for the locals and generates revenue for the local suppliers. However, the use of third-party companies as intermediaries means that L'Oreal is indirectly using child labor to expand its business. On this slide, we have the L'Oreal mica supply chain. As you can see, when mica is mined from Jharkhand and Bihar, it goes to third parties or intermediaries who then supply to L'Oreal. The conditions under which this mica is mined is morally problematic because a lot of the mica comes from these illegal or uncertified mines. The non-transparent and murky nature of the supply chain means that your company L'Oreal cannot be sure that they are supporting child labor. Since your company sources from intermediaries, a counter argument you may have is that you are not aware that child labor is what sustains the supply chain. However, I want to leave you with a couple of questions for you to think about. Does the fact that you are sourcing your mica from intermediaries absolve you of the responsibility? Will your consumers enthusiastically purchase your product if they find out that an 8-year-old died in the mine in order for them to have the shimmer on their faces? It is with no doubt that you will agree with me that the answer to both questions is a big no. Here on this slide, we have a father who sent his son to work at the mines. He has no idea about the real value of mica. He only knows that it's a way for him to provide for his family and for his family to survive. His son told him that he was going to work in the mine because he wanted to contribute to the family income. The mine collapsed on his son and his son died. The father didn't get to see the body of his son because his son was cremated without his knowledge. And this is the young boy in the picture who is called Madan. This is one of the many unfortunate events that occurred in the mines. Fortunately for Madan's family, they were informed about the death of their beloved one. Many families in Jharkhand and Bihar never get the opportunity to reconcile with the death of their children because they are discouraged from reporting their losses due to the fact that mica mines are a part of their livelihoods and these mica mines are illegal. This then leads us to the working conditions and regulations of these mica mines, which my colleague Lerato will touch more upon.
There is limited information on L'Oreal with respect to mica mining in India. According to India's Census Office, child labor is defined as the participation of a child less than 17 years of age in any economically productive activity with or without compensation, wages, or profit. Similarly, as stated by UNICEF, child labor is a result combined product of many factors such as poverty, social norms condoning it, lack of decent work, opportunities for adults and adolescents, migrations, etc. The persistence of child labor in India poses a threat to its economy and has severe consequences that hinder the fulfillment of children's rights guaranteed by the United Nations. Artisanal mining is a euphemism for unsafe working conditions and a poverty-driven livelihood. Artisanal mining is a high-risk trade that has significantly negative impact on miners who happen to be children. The mines are designed in such a way that a small child's stature and nimble hands also make them valuable for entering narrow mine shafts and sorting smaller pieces of mica. The illegal mines that employ these children, they do not have the tools and favorable working conditions, which then put the children in danger by exposing them to respiratory issues, disabilities, and in other instances, death. Furthermore, growth deficiency is prevalent among working children in these mines, as they tend to be shorter, lighter than other children. These deficiencies also have an impact on their lives during adulthood. The Indian government tried to formulate licensing to stop child labor in poor communities. It's taking a lot longer than it should. If L'Oreal is continuing to source mica from this community, they are exploiting the community and will continue this vicious cycle. Child labor is preventable, not inevitable. Effective action against child labor requires children to be placed squarely at the center of programs designed to protect children's rights. Every successful business takes into consideration what their competitors are doing, which brings us to your competitor, Lush.
Your competitor Lush identified that their supply chain of mica makes use of child labor, and this is against their ethical beliefs. They pivoted from natural mica to synthetic mica because they did not want to play a part in this human rights violation. After switching to synthetic mica in 2014, I would love to point out that their sales have steadily increased. Seeing that L'Oreal has a reputable market influence, they are able to be at the forefront of sourcing ethical mica and reducing child labor cases in mica mining. This leads us to our 3 proposed solutions. 1, the community forum. 2, a school feeding program. And 3, randomized auditing. I will now turn it over to Loretta, who will talk about the community forums.
The first being community forum, where your company will be working alongside community leaders. This gives L'Oreal the opportunity to engage transparently with the community and be actively aware of the needs of its people. Furthermore, priority should be given to the nutritional and educational needs of the children, which brings us to a second solution, the school feeding program. Over to you, Theodosia.
Thank you. One parent whose child works in the mine said, "I know Sandeep doesn't want to do it, but it is what it is. If he was able to go to school and learn and become something, that is good. But first, we need to eat." As you can see, you can tell that from this statement, you can tell that the mines are a part of their livelihoods. And so restricting their access to the mines will be detrimental to these families. After your company has solidified its connections with the community by way of the community forums, it will be able to decipher what kind of education the children need in order to stay in school. And this information will help you develop a curriculum that fosters the needs of the communities and their children. L'Oreal's job will be to ensure that children are enrolled and engaged with the educational curriculum that is made. L'Oreal will also then provide nutritional incentives to keep these kids in school. This will also generate revenue for the local agricultural sector because we will be sourcing these crops from local farmers and making food from these crops, thereby creating a circular economy, which we have on this slide. Our final solution will be to perform audits, which Tony Ann will talk more about.
Our last solution is we propose conducting randomized audits because previously planned audits have led to cover-ups of child labor. Hence, having randomized auditing will help your company determine if child labor is present in these mica mining sites, amongst other things. We cannot depend on the intermediaries to provide us with this audit. We would also suggest that L'Oreal create a department or initiative to spearhead the randomized audits in these mines.
To summarize everything we've said, we are not asking L'Oreal to leave or minimize your presence or their presence in Jharkhand or Bihar. We are asking your company to take a hands-on approach and ensure that the mica you use in your products are ethically sourced. And this can only happen if there's transparency in your supply chain. We understand that the families that work in these mines need to eat. However, this should not be at the expense of India's future leaders. And so we believe that with the implementation of our 3 proposed solutions, which are the community forum, the school feeding program, and the randomized auditing, we believe that the number of child labor cases will decrease exponentially.
Before we end our presentation, we would like to highlight your motto, which says, "Because you are worth it." We entreat you to take an active role in the transparency of your supply chain to protect these children because they too are worth it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And just for your information, you had 10 minutes remaining in your 25 minutes. So your presentation was well within the allotted time. That's so now let the rest of us stay within our roles as the board of directors of L'Oreal. Um, and I'll start out with the first question, and our fellow judges can pick it up from there. I'm concerned about these random audits that you're proposing. I certainly understand how the planned audits can be ineffective because when companies and the suppliers know that they're coming, they can cover up certain things. But the random audits, I'm a little bit concerned about how those would be implemented and whether there could be some unexpected consequences associated with that. Have you thought that through carefully?
Yes.
Okay. So with the random audits, we're going to do it with a local that L'Oreal trusts, in addition to external people that L'Oreal will be bringing into the community. And so L'Oreal first wants to establish a relationship with the community, and from the relationship that your company establishes, we would have a local person that we trust to perform these audits while taking the external person on these audits as well.
Okay, so you're confident that they can be implemented successfully?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, to any of our other judges?
Yeah, so I have a question. Do you know in your research the extent to which we have long-term contracts with these sites about, the labor that we'll be using? Is it possible for us to agree with you today and just immediately begin the process of removing the children from doing the work? Or is it the case that you showed how much of our market share was by acquisition? We acquired many other smaller companies. Sometimes when we do that, we write into the acquisition paperwork, the legal paperwork, that we won't change the workforce, because the company selling themselves to us requires that. So I guess that's one question. And I guess a related question is, who will do the work if it's not done by the children?
Okay, I can start. So your question, who will do the work if it's not done by the children? I think the children are at the mines because, for one reason, because they don't necessarily have access to education. So that's one reason why they're on the mines. So I think in this case, the parents of the children will do the work while the children are at school. I understand that that's a concern because the children are needed to enter these mining shafts, but essentially the parents will be doing the work of the children.
And in addition to that, you also asked with the contracts for the different companies that they've acquired. I don't think that with the use of social media right now, I don't think that if people found out that what the foundation of L'Oreal's business is based on children, people would support that company, and so they can make a huge loss with respect to using child labor to source the mica. And so I think that it's in L'Oreal's best interest to remove the children as quickly as possible, because now millennials are becoming more responsible with the things that they consume and they purchase.
So in the long run, it will be beneficial to L'Oreal to remove the children. And this could also be a part of their social corporate responsibility, which is to remove these children from the mines, because a lot of their competitors have done this and we want to catch up with. We would like for L'Oreal to catch up with this new market or the market trend right now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you want to go?
Sure. I've got three questions, observations for you. One, share with us your thoughts on why we as a company ought to be a first mover acting alone rather than coordinating the entire industry to work together so that one, the impact is bigger, and two, that everybody in the cosmetics industry would be acting in lockstep. Second question is, do you think it's better for us as a company? I understand right now, due to the public attention already on this important policy issue, that we're sourcing primarily from the United States right now. Do you think it's better for the company that we just source all our mica in the first world? Or is it better for the company to continue to source from the developing world with the some of the changes that you have considered? And then finally, the last question, and you can answer any or all if you want, but it's just, are we better off just disintermediating these brokers and working directly with the 1/8 of the mines that are operating legally?
Sorry, we
Is
didn't
that
get the last question.
Can you repeat the
Can you
last
please
question?
repeat the last question?
Sure. Is one potential solution to just not work together with the intermediaries and just work directly with the 1/8 of the mines that are mining mica legally?
Okay. So your first your first question was, why should L'Oreal lead this change or start this change?
It was, should we do it by ourselves or should we do it in lockstep with our competitors?
I think if L'Oreal was to do it by themselves, it would work just as well if they did it with the competitors. But I would suggest doing it by themselves right now, because L'Oreal holds as a 29.4% of the market share, and they are the leading cosmetics company. So if they were to start this or to start doing this, it will have, they have, first of all, they have the financial resources to do so. And if they do so, it will have a huge impact on the market as other companies and competitors would start doing this. I would also like to point out that some of their competitors like Lush and Bare Minerals are smaller companies, and because they've made this shift, they have seen an increase in sales because of the shift, this new shift that they've made. So if L'Oreal was to do it, we can only imagine how much revenue they will generate from making this shift, because they are the leading cosmetic company.
And your second question was, do you think it's better to source from first world versus third world countries? Is that right, Mr. Kipperman?
Yeah, it's just a consideration. Is it better for our image to avoid all the challenges of the third world, or is it on net better to do the right thing and put in the time and the money to try to make things better in India?
I do believe that it's better for them to still remain in India but do the right thing, because as we said, the mica mines are a source of livelihoods for many families in India. And so if L'Oreal removes itself completely, that will cause unemployment rates to increase in these provinces. And so if L'Oreal takes a much more responsible approach in finding out where the mica is sourced from and making sure that it's ethically sourced and free of child labor, and the conditions for working to are ideal, it would also be in L'Oreal's best interest to be there. And it could also help improve the economy of these communities.
And to your last question, if there is potential to cutting out the middleman, I believe that if L'Oreal does cut out the middleman, they stand a better chance of actually setting a standard when it comes to auditing and the type of mica that they receive from this community. This is also a form of accountability on behalf of L'Oreal, and it doesn't necessarily make them contribute further to the human rights violations present in these areas. So cutting down the middleman also means that L'Oreal has the opportunity to put in departments such as audits, which will furthermore list down what we need from the mica suppliers, and furthermore reciprocate what we're trying to portray as a company.
Which is ethical sourcing of mica.
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple of follow-in questions if we still have time, Ken.
Anytime.
Thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to follow on around the financial commitment, right? You talked about reputational damage and harm. You talked about the future consumer, the present consumer, and their ability to move the market and the influencers. What we hadn't seen in your presentation yet is what is the size of the investment for the community forums, for the feeding program, for the education program, and are we at the right level? Right, so we have these two areas, Jakarta and Bihar, and we know India's got all the different states. Are we operating at the right level to influence positive change, or do we need to be higher up in the government? So 2 questions. What is the financial size of the commitment? And if we look to influence, while we can help the local community, should we be looking to the larger government for help, because we have 29% of this market and do have the ability to move some practices?
Do you want to talk on commitment? Okay, in terms of getting the government involved, we did mention previously that the government had put things in place so that there is a reduction in the amount of children involved in the mica mines. However, we cannot just solely rely on the government to actually head on these initiatives. We also have a stake in this, and I believe that L'Oreal should be the one leading this initiative into protecting the children in Jharkhand and Bihar that are involved in the mica mines.
And in terms of the financial commitment, L'Oreal makes billions of dollars annually. And so implementing these initiatives in these communities would not take a lot of money away from L'Oreal, also because we are trying to make these communities independent and let them be able to generate their own revenue through the circular economy. So it should take a small initial starting capital, but then as the years progress, they should be able to sustain themselves.
I would like to add in on the government portion of the question. They have tried to implement, so the IBM, the Indian Bureau for Mining, they have tried to implement audits or just safe regulations, but it hasn't worked. It hasn't worked, and it's been slow. So that's why we're recommending that L'Oreal go in there and see what's going on their own, because we can't depend on the intermediaries or the government, because it's been very slow thus far.
I'm wondering about Mr. Kipperman's question about eliminating the intermediary problem altogether, instead of doing random audits. Have L'Oreal, our company, deal directly only with mines that are certified and legal? Does that mean we're going to have not enough supply? Is that what you're implying?
Yes.
So they source through a company that's present in India, and they work with the mines themselves. I think cutting out the intermediary, I don't think that would be beneficial to L'Oreal itself, because I think we do need the intermediary transaction. The problem is that there isn't transparency between what's going on with the companies that the intermediary is working with. That's the problem. What's the question? What was your question exactly?
Well, as I understood Mr. Kipperman, the intermediaries, because it's not transparent, are the source of the ethical problem here.
Right.
And if you could eliminate that lack of transparency entirely by getting rid of that stage of your diagram, you go directly from L'Oreal to the mines that are certified and legal. There's a way to do that. Then maybe the ethical problem would disappear, but maybe that's not so simple.
Right.
No, that's not simple.
So with the intermediaries, they have created a rapport with the community and are giving people in the community these jobs. And so if we have a community forum and L'Oreal has established enough of a relationship in these communities, then we can do away with the intermediaries, because the community members trust us and know that we are here to do right by them, to do right by them. And so eventually that is the plan, but as it stands, we still have to use the intermediaries because they have the connection to these communities and they are the ones that the people in these communities trust.
We have 2 minutes left in this period of questioning. Do the judges have any other questions in their role as board of directors?
Yeah, your solution is similar to, but not quite the same. I think of 35 years ago, Adidas in Pakistan confronted a similar problem because the children's hands were small enough to sew the soccer balls. And their solution was somewhat similar to yours, but they decided to have the children work half the day, and then the other half the day they went to school funded by Adidas. And have you ever thought about what is the best thing to do? Is the best thing to do, because I think maybe in Pakistan the parents weren't available to step in to represent the labor, and so they still used the children because the children's size was unique, which it sounds like it is in your case too. Is there a possibility that following a similar solution to Adidas is the right way to go, or do you feel your solution is the right way to go?
So with respect to Adidas, sewing, there are no health issues when it comes to sewing a football, but there are health issues when it comes to the mines, because they use dynamite to blow up these mines in order for the children to crawl into these small spaces. And so even before they get to adulthood, they have a lot of respiratory problems and deficiency problems. And so with respect to even having the children have some kind of technical skill, that is what the school feeding program was going to do. And so we would have children learn technical skills such as farming, because both communities, both Bihar and Jharkhand, are agricultural communities. And so they could learn how to sow crops, harvest crops, which will in turn, if any of them want to be farmers in the later future, they have the skills that can help them be farmers. In addition to that, something that just came to my mind when you were talking is the whole essence of them working in these mines are because they want to sustain their families. And so if the children could also, with the curriculum, come up with farming or agricultural programs to help the children cultivate the crops to feed the people that are in the mine. So it just cuts down on the whole need for the children to be there. So they have food to sustain them in the mines, and food to sustain them, not food to sustain their families, their older family members in the mines, and food to sustain the children in school.
And we also believe that L'Oreal could just also invest in the equipment. So instead of using children, try and invest in new technologies that could also possibly mine the mica in a better way and in an efficient way. Because I don't believe using children with nimble hands is necessarily a solution to getting the exact mica that they're looking for.
Thank you.
I think that we've reached the 20-minute limit in our role. So now we can step out of our role and just talk to you as normal human beings. And that last point that you made in our role about technology is something that I want to draw attention to as a potential huge point for your presentation. The potential of introducing technology, robotics, and various other artificial intelligence technology into this mining process might well have an effect on the ethical uh, elicitation of mica from the ground. I think you might want to explore that further as you think this through. Because one of the things that's becoming clear from what the other judges have said in their questions is that the smallness of the children is a competitive advantage, which is a sad fact about this kind of mining. But it is also a fact that technology might be able to solve. So now, outside of our roles, do the judges have comments to make about the presentation itself, and especially with regard to the fact that this team is going to be presenting a 10-minute and a 90-second presentation tomorrow? Who would like to start?
So, thank you again. It was fantastic. I think some of the things that the three of you do naturally together are incredible, and they're great traits, and you should keep them. The passion that you have for this topic, your collaboration and camaraderie are things that work very well in the workplace. And when they're not in place, teams actually don't tend to work as well together. And that comes through. Your slides were amazing. Very few words. They told a story. You personalized that story. My suggestion on enhancing the slides would be to pull from L'Oreal's annual report this evening a slide, if you can add it in, that has their CSR budget or has the budget of their foundation. And you can put some financials. One of you already thought about that and you didn't do it. I can see it on your faces.
No, it is some of the financial. So we went into the financial statements and stuff like that. And some of these things cannot be found.
You can find something on their foundation. You can find something on their how much they donate to communities.
Okay.
You can also look at the cost of child labor, mainly in the retail or textile industries, those lawsuits that have come through where people have had bad press and millions of dollars to sell that, or business that they've lost. But I think adding some kind of financial component and not make it like your other slides, which are very easy, and you tell the story and the eye follows the slide. I think that could be very beneficial. And then your use of the motto of the company to prove why they should do this was brilliant. It was awesome. So thank you, and I'm sure the other judges have some other points they'd like to add.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll jump in. So I agree with Ken and Julie. Nice job. We know how difficult these things are, and you pulled it off very well. I'll go through some things. I have many positives. I have some negatives. So that's why I tried to turn the light so that half of my face is dark and half is light. I agree with Julie. You know, the fact that you took advantage to put those pictures of the children on the slides, and you put the father on there, and the cynic in me was ready to attack you because maybe that was just an isolated anecdote, but you literally followed 2 seconds later with saying this is not an isolated instance and this is one of many examples, and I put big pluses. So nice job. Um, the another plus, the extent to which you were able to effectively answer our questions. Our questions were very specific and very challenging because we were trying to play our roles accurately. And I was impressed with the quality, with your ability to do that. Um, I'm disappointed that the presentation was only 15 minutes. If we didn't make it clear to you that the goal is 25, that's our fault. But we are going to be, this is a competition, and we are going to be evaluating you against other teams who went 25 minutes. And boy, you know, if that means they went 2/3 longer than you did, there's a high likelihood that they gave us more valuable information than you did. So I apologize if we didn't succeed in motivating you to want to hit that 25. Um, and the slide that's up right now, uh, I'm seeing something where it shows slide 28, 29, 30, 31, and this and that. That's a little unprofessional. You wouldn't want that to happen. You should have just left it up with some final picture that's it. That's perfect. If we could have just looked at that or something during the Q&A. I loved that you mentioned the 3 proposed solutions, and you listed all 3 before you started to talk about them. And then when you were done, you restated them. So that's fantastic. There's a lot of information coming in. It's hard for us to uh, analyze it and receive it all effectively. So for you to say, this is what we're going to talk about, then you talk about it, and then you say, this is what we just talked about for the most important thing. That's great. I think for the 10 minutes that you didn't do that I wanted you to do, that would have given you more time to talk about the ethical reasoning. And that, of course, is the most important part of the 10-minute presentation tomorrow. You know, did I hear enough about the rights of the children? Did I hear enough about an analysis of the benefits and the harms of the way we do it now versus the benefits and the harms of if we did it the way that you propose? Did we hear enough about an analysis of fairness and justice? And so it's true, and Ken said it at the beginning, that we don't want you to use words like utilitarian or teleological or anything like that, but you can use words like rights, you can use words like benefits and costs or benefits and harms, and you can use words like fairness or justice. So I loved that you were holistic, you know, so the spirit of the quality of your presentation from an ethical standpoint was good because you looked at the big picture, you know, better than some other teams. I've sat in 2 other presentations today, and the way you cared about, you know, their need to eat and the school and the communities is fantastic. I agree with Julie. There wasn't enough financial information about, you know, the wages. Like what is the total cost of employing these children, and what would it cost to replace them with their parents? Can you pay the same amount, or will you have to pay more because traditionally adults earn more than children do? I don't know, but it would have been great to have a slide to see that. And I suppose, you know, it was great from a legal standpoint. You did mention children's rights with regard to UNICEF, which is great, and the reality of the illegality of those 7 out of 8 mines. So that's good. But I wonder if there's an argument to be made, and you know, only agree with me if you believe it. But I wonder if there's an argument to be made that maybe what L'Oreal is doing right now isn't technically illegal, or we couldn't be sued for it. But something important is sometimes something that's legal today, we can be sued for in the future. Even though it was legal today, there are future laws that will hold us accountable for what we did. So anyway, Nice job. Great topic. Julie's right. Great slides. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fred?
Thanks. First off, I just want to say congratulations. I think preparing for something like this is very difficult, and you ought to be very proud of yourselves. Second, making presentations is going to be part and parcel of the way you communicate as a professional. And each of you is a lot more efficient at that and better at that than I ever was in my mid-career. So I think you've got bright careers ahead of you, and you're really communicating by video is a skill, just like presenting in person. And I thought you guys did a really nice job of that. I also want to echo that I thought the slides were effective and well prepared, and that I personally, I don't like the slides that people use that it doesn't matter if they're reading it or you just have it on mute, you know. I thought that the what you had to say was complementary to the slides, and we needed both to get the full picture, and I thought that was really thoughtful. I guess couple things that I think could perhaps strengthen the arguments are, one, I didn't understand, but I spent some time last night just looking up the global market for mica. And it looks like L'Oreal is definitely, this is not an issue that they haven't considered as a company. And if you read their responses in conjunction with the UN and a kind of a global perspective on child labor, and that they looked at the US market for sourcing mica versus India, and that they've kind of come to a conclusion that you know, they want to be part of the solution in India because it's so important to these communities. And you know, I just thought that was pretty thoughtful. And I don't know if this is an exercise or if it's designed to be giving advice to the company as it is now. But I do think that just being aware of that could be helpful for thinking about it and questions. And then for me, I want to echo, sometimes I think when young people, you were all very professional. And I think that those are plus, plus, plus. But sometimes we're professional and we forego our authenticity. And I think that you can do them both, which I thought you did a nice job of. And that's what I want to compliment you on, that being professional isn't just memorizing your lines. It's doing it with both integrity and your own spirit. And I just would like to remind young people of that professional isn't just not having to look down at your cue card. You know, it's believing in what you're doing, and I want to laud you for that. And so, you know, I want to say congratulations, and I want to say good luck, and I want to say thank you for everything that you've done, and good luck in getting out there and making the world a better place.
Thank you.
And I too would like to congratulate you. I thought you did a wonderful presentation. The slides were very well done, and your reading off your division of labor was very nicely handled, and your response to the board of directors in the roles that they were in was on the spot. I mean, you were having to extemporaneously think on your feet with respect to those questions, and you did a nice job with that. And so I really congratulate you on that.
Yeah, the way that someone just pulled out market share, you know, 29%. That was perfect. It's awesome. Awesome. When I hope you didn't make it up, because it sounded great. Okay.
Just happened to pull that right out of the air.
Mm-hmm.
I want to join with Tim Mazer, though, on the question of the missing 10 minutes, because I think it was a missed opportunity. It's I mean, there's no rule that says you can't use 15 minutes instead of 25, but in this case, it was a missed opportunity, in my opinion, because uh, uh, the, the what's going to happen tomorrow is that you're not going to have a PowerPoint,
Mm-hmm.
and therefore you're going to have to communicate. I don't know if you're going to do it with one person or two or all three of you, but you're going to have to communicate your message with more with words and ideas than you are with visuals. And if you had used perhaps some of that 10-minute time today in the way that Tim Mazur was suggesting, uh, emphasizing the core principles behind your argument, uh, the principles of human rights, the principles of uh, obligations that the company has to all of its stakeholders, not just to its stockholders. The principle of do no harm, um, the principle of compassion, the principles of caring, safety. You emphasized some very concrete human uh, ethical needs. I mean, you emphasize health risks and the need for safety equipment and down at the concrete level. But a level up above that is the principles of human rights and human dignity uh, and duties of various kinds. And I think that that if you put some language around that and connect it to the nature of this um, problem, it will get your audience more engaged, and you've got the space to do that. Um, I kept imagining at the end of your slides, uh, because of the tagline of L'Oreal, because you're worth it. I kept imagining a final slide uh, that read, because they're worth it too.
That would have been
Because
nice.
that was, because that's your message.
Yeah.
That's the core of what you were telling me.
Yeah.
And um, and when you talk about human worth, you're communicating something that's powerful ethical message, and it's not technical, but it's powerful. And I really, for one, want to thank you for it. Are there any other comments that the judges want to make
I
before
think
we
the
let?
point, yeah, I think the point that Fred made, where L'Oreal's already made the decision, so the senior management team and the board have already decided that they want to go this route, and that is most likely in line with their values. I wonder if they have a sheet of their values, that some of which Ken probably just rattled off, right? Repeat back to them their values. They've already made this decision, and here's some ways for them to accomplish that decision as you look through the landscape and you saw what the available solutions were that fit with their values. So it might be a way to tie the
Yes.
three different concepts together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, before we break up here, do you have questions of us? Are there things that you would
Good.
that we can help you with as you continue as you continue thinking about these issues themselves, but also as you continue in the competition tomorrow?
My question is, I just want to clarify for tomorrow's presentation. And so we start off our presentation with a history of L'Oreal. Do you think that we should not include that tomorrow, or should we still to give some context to whoever we are presenting to?
Well,
Yeah, this is just an opinion, so Ken or anyone else should weigh in too. Yeah, you've got 10 minutes, and boy, oh boy, you should use, don't go over, but you should not be less than 9 minutes. It's just my opinion. I think try to keep it to no more than 2 minutes to explain what the issue is. And then use 4 minutes to do because remember, tomorrow's only ethics, not the legal and not the financial. but do about 4 minutes on the ethics or so, and then about 3 minutes of the persuasion. And you can use money in the persuasion. I mean, we are a corporation and everything, so you in making the argument for your solution and why it's better than the alternatives, that's about 3 minutes, and then that leaves you a minute at the end to sort of wrap everything up and restate the key stuff. So that's just my opinion about when I think of other people in the past 20 years for their 10 minutes.
Piggyback off. Oh, go for it.
I agree with that. Go ahead, Jimmy.
If I could just piggyback off of that, that's totally right. Rich history of the companies that have been made, you can hit and get off that really quickly. I think your consumer, and especially the millennial and now the Gen Z populations, are really important too, because there's something called ethical consumerism. And consumers are willing to actually pay more for products that they know have been sourced ethically. And you don't have to talk about that. You don't want to talk about increasing the cost of the product. But customers are willing and want to buy, especially in that millennial generation, from companies that do the right thing. And so that gets to reputational damage, that gets to the portion of the CSR budget and why this is an important initiative. They've already made those decisions. Now you're explaining to them some of the paths forward.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, I don't think I have any questions.
You'll think of them right after we quit. Huh?
Probably, most likely.
Nice job.
Oh, you do have contact information for all of us, I believe.
Okay.
So don't hesitate to use it.
Okay.
We want you to feel confident about tomorrow.
Okay.
You sure should feel confident about today. You did a wonderful job. And if we talk about opportunity costs, we're just talking about ways in which you could have done even better. And when we say you did well and could have done even better, that should make you feel good. Because
Thank you.
you should be proud.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I see Thomas White's name there. Maybe he should be here to say hello and goodbye.
Well, that's what I'm here. That's what I'm here for. Normally, I would have preferred to have come in for the first few minutes, but we were having we were learning about the technology more, and I wanted to make sure that I didn't come in at a point where it would disrupt things catastrophically. So I decided to wait to the end. But I particularly wanted to thank the judges for, well, in addition to the students, of course, for all their work, but Julie and Fred and Tim, you're all veterans. Fred, I haven't seen you in eons since I was in LA. So it's good to see you again, and thanks for doing this.
Well, I'm glad you recognized me because I got a lot better looking.
Okay, I'll buy that. And Julie, thanks for coming again, and also thanks for arranging for the the substitute for Joe Hayes. I really appreciate that. And it's as I've told students, it's people like you who are the key to all of this. This is not just kind of some ordinary academic exercise. This is one where people with corporate experience. Tim, I'm sorry, Ken, no insult on people in academics, but
yeah, no insult taken.
Since both of us, that's what both of us have been making our living at. But what we pride ourselves in at IBEC is it's practical, it's business oriented, it's trying to get students equipped with integrating ethics in the way that ordinary folk do it in business. So that really does help an enormous amount, Fred, Julie, Tim, to have people who are on the front lines doing this. Because as Ken and I can attest, whenever we say stuff about ethics to our students, they nod politely, and in the back of their minds, they're saying, yeah, that's what they're paid to say. Of course, you all are not paid to say that. So when you say that, they say, oh, gee, I guess people in business take it seriously. So thanks again. I will not stress the system any more than necessary, but I just wanted to pop in and hope everybody stays safe and healthy.
Thank you.
Yes.
You too.
Good luck tomorrow.
For your time.
Yes, good luck tomorrow, indeed.
Thank you.
And if there's no other business, then I say we were adjourned for this session.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Good day.
Bye.
Bye.